The global economic collapse is on now. Lineups for food stretch miles. The Fed is taking over the entire financial system. Day after day, the situation globally gets worse. Bankruptcies have already climbed higher, and we all know this has only just begun. With people being the most unprepared ever in history, this is generally understood to be a time in which people will likely face a difficult period. What's really going on? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. I'm here to give you the harsh reality. I am the messenger of bad news, and that is unfortunate, but somebody's got to do it. And I'm not just giving you the bad news. We're looking at all the details which are underlying this system so that you know, so that you are prepared, so that you are empowered to do more. I have so much content here, but of course, I also have solutions. Let's get into what's happening today. Sign of the times. Mile-long line of cars outside California grocery giveaway. They cover the details here in this article, and I think it's important to understand how this isn't just in one place. It's not just in one region, but we're seeing these problems extending out. If you take a moment to understand the impact of how it's not just one person or not just one company, there's that ripple effect. Yes, it could have an impact on one person, but they go out further and further and further, and suddenly this becomes a widespread issue that is affecting everyone. 6,000 families line up in their cars for hours at a food bank in San Antonio as millions across the country turn to charity organizations to keep from going hungry. Now, while this is a terrible situation, it really does highlight how many people are unprepared for a crisis. They think that they can always go to the grocery store to get food. They believe that their job will always be there, but how many people are living paycheck to paycheck? This is what's happening today. And it's not just the US, of course. We see this everywhere. People expect everything to be smooth, and time again, we realize that isn't the case. But do people learn? Of course not. I'm going to show you a few pictures just to give you an idea of what's happening. You may have seen these already, but people are getting these boxes. They get their rice, they get their food. This keeps them going. Take a look at all the cars that are lined up here. Now, we saw a similar image to this with all of the cars that are being produced by all these auto companies in 2019, and they were just sitting in parking lots, nobody's buying them. Now we have 2020 where a bunch of cars lining up, but these people need food to eat. Here's another one in San Diego. I mean, it's just a massive amount. And just think about it. These are only a few of the people that you're seeing in these particular snapshots. Imagine how many out there are really in need. You saw the initial jobless claims spike, and it was out of nowhere. So there's variances, 204,000, 220,000, but suddenly we get to March 21st, and those numbers showed 3.3 million. Then it doubled from there, and we're looking at the expectation of these numbers continuing on. When we're talking about 17 million people in just a few weeks, that is so excessive, so extreme, that there is no possible way that the impact of this will not be felt for months. This is an amazing stat here. We're looking at this out of Bloomberg. Record bankruptcies predicted in the next year as unemployment soars. Whether it's corporate bankruptcies or personal, this is unprecedented. We will break the record in dollar amounts because there are much greater amounts of debt outstanding now than in any prior downturn. The amount of debt that we have seen on every single level is at historic highs. Look at the national debt, which I'll show you in a second. Look at personal debt. Look at corporate debt. Look at any type, and it's at a record. Now, that's the expectation. Over time, you do have debt that increases, and you have real wealth that trickles along, all along here, barely growing as a measure of, let's say, the GDP, which is manipulated in itself. But regardless, the gap in between these two is always increasing, and that creates a huge disparity that is only fixed on occasion by a severe downturn. Let me just say it up front. You were lied to. The government said that they would be giving major loans out there, but they didn't anticipate this many small businesses applying to these programs. They just chose a random number that looked big, just like they did with TARP. They got the bill signed. They stuffed in some unrelated things that they wanted to get passed. Everybody voted yes to it. Fantastic. We care. The CARES Act, unfortunately, didn't address this particular situation. Small businesses wait for cash as disaster loan program unravels. Owners were supposed to be able to get up to $2 million. Now they're being told the cap is $15,000 if they can get any answers at all. Now, if you're a tiny little company, $15,000 might help you out. But if you've got a few employees, a paycheck like this isn't going to be able to get you past the hump. I'll tell you right now, the big corporations, they're going to be just fine in most cases. They can lay a few people off, they can trim the fat, but it's the small businesses that are going to be decimated. Big businesses will have less competition, and of course, they win again. Do not believe the suits and ties. I'll repeat that once again. Do not believe the suits and ties. They are only there to distract you while the real activities take place in the shadows. Before the flood, increase in personal bankruptcy filings from March 2019 to March 2020. You can see the different areas which are affected more than others. Iowa at the top here. These numbers will certainly be growing over the coming weeks. Going south, number of personal bankruptcies per 1,000 population in the first quarter of 2020. I would love to see the numbers that come out in the second quarter. We know that this is going to be significantly higher. Well, that didn't take very long. The federal debt tops $24 trillion for the first time. The current federal fiscal path is unsustainable. We knew that a long time ago. Doesn't it seem like yesterday we were at $23 trillion? They added $1 trillion in the blink of an eye. $1 trillion. This is an absolutely gluttonous government that consumes and consumes and consumes, and you as the individual, you get less. You get less out of it, though the consumption is higher. Nobody wants to address the situation, but it's here in front of our eyes. This article here gets into several issues, but I just wanted to point out a few. The Fed's intervention is widening the gap between the market haves and have-nots. We've seen the wealth disparity get much worse over the years. Every single crisis, we see that converge somewhat, but ultimately in the end, it really takes off because the average person doesn't necessarily gain anything. You know, your raise at work, maybe if you're lucky, you're going to get that 3%. Some people get more, of course, but with inflation, you're essentially getting nothing. That's just the way it is. Over time, the system is designed to enrich the globalist elite to ensure that they have control and that they are able to maintain that. They will never let that grip go. It is written into the system itself, into the code. This is talking about what the Federal Reserve and the central banks are doing, how they're intervening, they're buying up all these assets. The riskier markets that fall outside the Fed's purview, including junk bonds, leverage loans, and non-government-backed mortgage bonds, the pain has been slower to abate. Some markets remain essentially closed for business, setting off a race against the clock for borrowers to stay afloat. And now what we have is the Federal Reserve going into these deep, dark avenues that they never would have before, using their special purpose vehicles, using any method that they can to go in and buy up all of that garbage. We talked about the CDOs before. By the way, this is a pile of garbage. And they are literally printing money out of thin air. They take that money and they buy up the garbage. Now, what do they do with it? Well, don't worry. They're going to make you money from it. They're going to make this profitable. They're going to take it off of their hands and they're going to wash it and make it clean and bring it back to you. Well, I mean, we don't know what happens behind the scenes at the Federal Reserve. We have absolutely no idea what they do inside and out because there is no transparency. But you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry because they promised that they're going to take care of it. They promised that they're going to look after you. And I believe them because, quite frankly, the Federal Reserve loves us. EU ministers agree €500 billion rescue plan. They don't even know what's in this plan yet. They don't even know what to do. I'm serious. It is literally a fact. Right now, they don't know what the plan is about. But hey, choose a big number, $500 billion, and make it happen. There's no possible way that they can ever get themselves out of the deficit that they're putting themselves into. But let's not worry about that. Let's just try and rescue the system. It's ridiculous. There's no possible way that any country, any person, any corporation can get away long term without paying their bills. Out of CNBC, get ready for the recovery of the 1%. Take a look at the second point. In 2009, the stock market jumped more than 50% from its low thanks to TARP, the Fed, and other government support. It took the rest of America almost a decade to recover lost wages and their home values. I would add that people today still haven't recovered. So many of them. Unfortunately, they're doing the same thing at an even greater degree today. They're not helping out the little people, they're bailing out the major institutions. But wouldn't it be interesting if they didn't bail them out? Well, this billionaire here actually said so on CNBC. The host was just taken back. He was shocked. How could anybody say this? Why would you not want to bail them out? But of course, he speaks about the moral hazard. He speaks about the problems that this causes in the long term. Nobody really wants to talk about this stuff, but it is serious. That's why I want to thank you for being here. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to see me on any of the social media platforms, you can get me on Instagram and Twitter and everywhere else. Just look up The Money GPS. Selling online is extremely important right now. More than ever before, I created this e-course a little while ago to help teach you the steps. It is 100% free and it is available at the AmazonGPS.com. The global economy is sinking fast, and I hope that you have the knowledge to keep you going, to keep making sure that everything financially, economically, dealing with your situation is tight. If you want to understand it top to bottom, these two books will give you all the information you need. Check the link in the description. Every day I get the comments, you never provide the solutions, and half the time at the end of the video, I say, if you want the how-to and solutions, I have a playlist called How to and Solutions. If you click on it, you'll see the videos. Take care.